It's got talk, do the maths. So, as you know, we're shooting a short series of documentaries tackling various different areas in the community, areas that probably a lot of discussion or more discussion is needed in those areas. So, it's got talk. We've got our own style of tackling these issues and our way of addressing it through open dialogue and conversation. Today, the topic we're going to discuss is mental health. Mental health is a big area and it covers many different aspects. Okay, so I want to make that clear. I've worked in the community and I've worked with various individuals that have had mental health in different capacities. But this particular gentleman I've met at the Eric Thomas event in London on May the 11th, and he reached out to me after the event. He gave me a call. He said, "Hey, I really like your work, I really like what you're doing, I'd love to come down to the Ace Production Studios and tell my story." So I said, "You're more than welcome." He's a very inspiring young man. I'm going to hand you over to Billy and he's got a story to tell.
Alright, so what's up everyone? So I'm 28 years old. I've had OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, since I got diagnosed when I was 11. But I knew from very early on, even before that, I'd say from about 4 or 5 years old, that I knew I was different to people. Things like birthdays, I wouldn't ever have birthday parties because I'd get funny about people touching my stuff and going in my room, and even though I had friends, at times I felt like they weren't my friends. I felt like I couldn't trust people. A lot of my OCD stuff a lot of people think of it as stepping on a certain amount of paving slabs when they're walking outside and that. But mine was more going to the toilet, how long it took me in the toilet, how long it took me to have showers. So yeah, I've struggled with it, but also it's not just the OCD side of it. Through that, that's been linked in with depression. I first noticed something went right, as I said early on, but the first big thing that I can remember happening was I used to just cry myself to sleep every night. And my mum started looking up symptoms. She could see me doing certain things, and she looked up what I was doing, and I went to the doctors and they diagnosed me with obsessive compulsive disorder. So from there, for about a year or two, it was just trying to get therapy. And
Now, what age was you when you first got clinically diagnosed?
11.
11.
Yeah.
And how long prior to getting clinically diagnosed did you suffer from OCD?
I'd say from 4 or 5 years old that I started noticing. Obviously at that point I didn't know what it was, my mum and that didn't, but that was when I knew my brain and things I used to think about and things that would stress me out and give me anxiety was different to, or a lot more than it was that I'd see in other people for certain things. So.
And in those early years, from 4 or 5 going up to 11, where you wasn't diagnosed, how did you feel? Because you obviously didn't have the support necessarily from your parents and your family and stuff. So how did you cope during those early years?
I've always I've never been one very popular in or a larger crowd of people. And at times I've kind of felt like I wanted that, but over the years I've kind of learned to appreciate just being on my own a lot. Obviously when you're younger it's harder. But yeah, I had a dog, and I used to just bond with the dog a lot. I started writing music, but that was until I'd say around 11 upwards. So before that, it was just kind of, basically I used to just speak to my mum all the time about things that was troubling me. And,
so you opened up to your
it was mostly my mum at that point, in the younger years. My dad was kind of made aware of it, but he just was that man up kind of. He was very you just got to deal with it. But even when I got diagnosed, for a few years he didn't really understand what it was. Nowadays he always says if you want to talk about anything and that, he's much more approachable about it now. And I definitely think it stemmed from, I think he had it when he was younger.
Because I was just thinking, for some of the younger viewers that might be watching this, who haven't yet been diagnosed but can relate to some of the symptoms that you were going through in those early years of your life, what advice would you give them in terms of how to be open about what they're going through?
So I think if say like I know everyone's not got a family life that they feel that they can talk to their family.
Just family support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was my support, but I know everyone hasn't got that like luxury.
Yeah.
So I'd say there's always like helplines and things. Like obviously when you're young, it's kind of hard to find that. But even if you tell like your friend or speak to your friend, and they might speak to their parents.
Yeah. And I guess nowadays it's probably a lot easier because with the advancement in technology, you've got social media. So there's help groups on various social media platforms. You've got the internet now, where nowadays you can practically search for anything as well. So I think there's probably more support openly available than probably when you were younger. So take us up to 11 years old. So at 11, your mum, you got diagnosed, and the doctors diagnosed you with OCD.
Yeah.
Okay. And what happened after that?
So I'd say for the first year of the getting diagnosed, it was searching to get help for like the therapy side of it.
Yeah.
And I think that happened within the first year, maybe the second year.
Yeah.
So I had that for a few years, which they was teaching me like noticing the triggers for it, like when stuff like to try and when you can start noticing when something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then they teach you things like, because in my case it was like the timing of the toilets and the showering. So they actually set me, for example, they told me to get a stopwatch and start timing myself to see how long it was taking, and then gradually cut the time down.
Yeah. Tell us more about the triggers, because I think that's quite important.
So just things like if we had to go out anywhere as a family, or like just even going to the park or something, probably an hour or more before, if I knew in advance we would be going somewhere, I'd start stressing like straight away. Oh, I need to get a toilet, and like I need to wash, and so it was just noticing early on like that anxiety creeping up inside me.
Yeah.
That like, right, I need to go and do this now, because like for instance we used to go to Alton Towers.
Yeah.
And we'd get up really early because we had to like get the coasters and all that, but I'd have to get up like earlier than everybody else.
Yeah.
Because we was all in the same house.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I need to get in the toilet, because sometimes as well I wouldn't even go once, I'd have to go a couple times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was just a major stress. So like the triggers was just kind of like I'd get like sweats, like stomach aches, just feeling of like I feel unclean, so I have to shower.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the triggers that I've had.
Interesting. And so then you talked about, so through therapy they implemented certain tools that started to cut down the times that you spent doing these tasks, and you found that helped?
I found it did help, but obviously even when I was cutting the times down, my head, because I describe OCD as like it's like yin and yang, like one on like got the good on one shoulder and the bad on the other. But the bad with OCD for a lot of people outweighs the good. That voice, it's like a monster. And yeah, it's just. Oh, sorry, I forgot the question.
No, it's fine. You was talking about the yin and the yang. And we're talking about tools that you put in place to cut down. So that your time you use in the bathroom, etc. So the yin and yang, but obviously the voice that is you're saying that is telling you the bad is overpowering the good. Balance.
So basically, if I started achieving in terms of like cutting times down, I would get a sense of like I've achieved it, like that's good. But I'd have more of an overwhelming that voice in my head saying, "Nah, you're not clean enough. You need to get back in the shower." Or like, "Nah, that like." You might have done the time, but you both know we're not happy about this, because it's kind of like you're two people.
Yeah. I get that. So what other coping tools did they put in place in therapy to kind of help tackle and override that voice?
So another thing that they give me, they put me on medication. Now I'm not big on medication, like at the time I
for
felt
obvious
it,
reasons,
it
yeah.
stabilised me, and it did calm me down in certain aspects of probably wouldn't get as stressed, but it had the side effects, like I had no energy.
Yeah.
I just wanted to sleep all the
Sleep all the
time,
time, tired,
and with the
yeah.
depression anyway,
Yeah.
it was like a double whammy.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, so like, it was just, after a while, I was just like, I can't be on these tablets. I didn't want to rely on the tablets for the rest of my life.
Brilliant.
I went through 2 different sets of medication, because the first lot worked for a little while,
Yeah.
and then I came so immune to them,
Yeah.
they had to give me the stronger ones.
Yeah.
But then the side effects were so much worse, just like the feeling tired all the time. And,
Yeah.
and yeah, so like after a while, it's not advisable, but I kind of went cold turkey with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not advisable. I mean, I have to be very careful what I say when we're talking about mental health and the administrating and not administrating of drugs. But if we talk about things like nowadays, stress, depression, anxiety, a lot of people nowadays keep being prescribed more and more medication for things like stress, depression and anxiety, and there are alternative methods and other ways to cope and deal with depression, stress, anxiety that doesn't require medication, you know. And as you know, medication can sometimes be a short-term quick fix to a long-term solution, so it's always about looking at the root causes of what is actually causing the issues as opposed to just patching them up with pharmaceutical drugs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
With the relevant advice from your doctor, physician, etc. But you're a fighter. You know, you're a fighter because you even at the point when you acknowledged that you had OCD and you were tackling it, and you know there were times when it was getting a bit, you know, tough, and the doctor started prescribing drugs for you. You was aware that I don't want to rely on these drugs. I don't want to rely on the medication. I want to, you know, be able to fight this and deal with this, and you know, have to rely on drugs for us to run.
Yeah.
So tell us how you battled that, because you're a warrior.
So obviously,
You said you went cold turkey.
yeah, like, and I would advise people to come down off it gradually. Because
Yeah.
not everyone, like, I found it really tough at times, just
Yeah.
coming off it straight away.
Yeah.
Because it does mess with your side effects in that sense as well.
Yeah, and I can say through the work that I've done in the community, and I actually worked in various care homes where we had to prescribe medication for young YPs for various other reasons, but I've watched the medication gradually be reduced, you know, through controlled methods, and then improve as well, you know.
Yeah.
So if the right support structure is in place, you know, you can actually, you know, reduce your meds and still function,
Yeah.
you know, relatively well. Carry on, sorry.
So yeah, there was that. I'd say like gradually try and cut down and,
Yeah.
and then get off it eventually.
Yeah.
I think hobbies, like things like
Good.
hobbies. If you're a footballer
Brilliant.
or like basketball, or it could be music. It doesn't have to be
Brilliant.
like sport. If you've got something to, like with me, I found music, and because of all the like the voices in my head and stuff, a lot of like for example like Eminem and a lot of people
Brilliant.
will say they've had the same thing. Like
Yeah.
it might not be an OCD thing as
Yeah.
such, but they have a lot of artists write from the pain and the darkness.
Yeah.
And I felt like at certain times, because I wasn't always sociable as well, I could
Yeah.
express myself better through the lyrics and talking to
Yeah. So you found that you used your creative side to express how you were feeling, your feelings, your
Yeah.
passions, and music was a way of expressing that creativity,
Yeah.
which is brilliant, and that's a very therapeutic. I'll say it again. That's a very therapeutic way to manage your OCD. So well done for that.
So thanks.
Yeah. So tell us about some of your other hobbies.
So I used to play football a lot.
Yeah.
Just like Sunday league level. But music, I've also recently got involved in a workshop from where I'm from in Reading.
Yeah.
It's called #Talk, and it's
#talk. So you got Ace Got Talk, and then we got #talk.
so
Yeah.
it's run by a friend, like someone I've come close to, who I actually went to the ET event with.
Okay.
He's called Amnesia. He's a rapper from Reading as well.
Okay.
But he has brought it upon himself over the last, I'd say I think the last couple months of workshops we're running. We've only had 2 sessions so far, But he's brought it upon himself to be an outlet for people in Reading, for somewhere to go, because there's not a lot of the services in that are there. There's not a lot of information about them.
Brilliant.
And a lot of the time people have to pay for it, and not everyone's got the money to pay for it.
So brilliant. So shout out, that's Ace Got Talk. Shout out to hashtag, was it Real Talk?
No, just hashtag talk.
Hashtag Talk. And just tell the listeners at home where they can find this gentleman, his all his socials, and just about the work that he's doing to support OCD and mental health in the Reading community.
So you can find him on Facebook. I think he's got a couple different pages. So he goes under Anesia, his name. His artist name is Red Jacks Music.
Brilliant.
He's also under the Red Jacks Music on Instagram as well. So you can find him on there under that.
Yeah, brilliant, man. It's amazing. So from London to Birmingham to Wolverhampton and all across the country, there's little hubs in the community that are working with the community and giving them various different support, and it goes from one end of the spectrum to the other, from mental health to homelessness to even feeding the homelessness, to even, I know people that are out there clothing the homeless. So there's so much little hubs of people in the community doing good work for the community, and we want to continue to highlight all the good work, because as you know, it takes a community to raise a child, you know what I mean? So each one teach one, one hand wash the other. So yeah, carry on, my brother.
So yeah, the workshop's just based on just struggle, really. It is the theme of it is mental health,
yeah.
But obviously that covers, like you said at the beginning, a whole it's like mad.
Yeah.
So we had the first session. We had a guy that was homeless last year. He turned it around and he's now in accommodation and stuff.
Yeah.
Had another person there that was they have the fits.
Yeah.
Obviously mine was OCD, so there's a whole different range of things going on there.
Yeah.
And I just think it's great, because a lot of people that have come have said they don't feel like if it was a paid therapy, they feel like they're going and getting judged straight away, it's like a AA meeting, they were saying.
Brilliant.
So with these sessions, it is literally even though some of the people we never met before, it was the first time meeting, by the second session they was they feel like they were saying we don't feel like we're being judged.
Yeah.
It's easy to talk, because it is literally people friends meeting up and talking.
So the environment is set up in such a way that you feel you can be quite open and not judged. So really, would you say it's right to say it would be nice for more of those type of services to be available?
I think I can't even explain how important it is, because like I said, there's so many out there, but there's not enough talk about it. And even people that work in it don't always promote it.
Brilliant.
Because obviously, I don't like to think like this, but I think a lot of them are in it just to take the money home.
Billy's got talk, Ace got talk, and that's what this platform is about, is shedding light where light is actually needed, So and that's what we're out here doing. And on that note, just touch on a few charities. I need to mention Angela's Blessings down in South East London, because she does a beautiful thing every single Friday. Two elderly ladies jump in their van and they drive around South East London feeding homeless people on the streets, and they even plot up outside certain charities. And we also got Project Giving, who've been doing amazing work. I support them, and every 6 weeks we collect clothing and distribute them out in central London, in Holborn. And you've got these guys that are getting support in Reading, and there's so many other organisations. You've got the Manhood Academy doing amazing things in the community, but there's a lot of hubs, and this is what this platform wants to do, is shed light on these platforms, because you are right, there's a lot of people out there that are collecting money and fundraising and doing all of these things in the name of so-called help, and the money never gets to where it's needed, and the support never gets to where it's needed. But there's been a change of regard, and slowly but surely, step by step, we're going to turn that around, and we will get help to where it's needed. And I just want to make a note on that point. The charities that Ace Got Talk has been supporting on the ground, all of these charities fund themselves. They don't get any government funding. They don't get it. They don't ask for any. They're not on GoFundMe asking for anyone to fund them. These are people that are spending their own time and their own money to put support where it's needed. So I commend even what the brothers up in Reading are doing to help with the mental health crisis. So yeah, Ace Got Talk. Watch this space because we're going to keep touching on these issues. But most importantly, also we want to inspire young individuals that are going through, the same kind of things that Billy have gone through. That there is hope and there is help out there, and if we can point you in that direction of where you need to get that help, by all means get in touch with us. In the links below we'll add all the socials, all the Ace Got Talk socials. You can email me, message me, and if you want, we'll put up some OCD mental health support groups as well. We can get in touch with. So anyone who might identify with some of the symptoms that Billy was displaying early out in his childhood, and do you know what? I might have some of those, and I might need to speak to someone. We're going to get you the help and put you in the right area. And anyone who lives in Reading, if you live in Reading and you want to up there, we'll get you the support out there as well. Ace Got Talk. Billy. So tell us about life now. How does life look now? So you started off as a young man, very highly stressed, OCD, got therapy at the age of 11, then you got into your later teens, etc. Went cold turkey on the meds.
Yeah.
Got involved in hobbies, which I think is a brilliant way to keep your mind occupied and also express your creativities. And hobbies are a beautiful thing, especially when you find things that you're passionate about and you enjoy doing. So how does life look now? Because I know you're working and you've got a few things in the pipeline for the future. So tell us about that.
So yeah, I just recently started a new job. And the job that I started, I won't really go into detail what it is, but the nature of the job is something that is challenging to me because Brilliant. I wanted to make something like a change of the job I was doing before. Yeah. So I kind of, as well, I wanted to make it clear that I feel like if you want to grow as a person, you've got to deal with the fear. Brilliant. You've got to tackle brilliant. If you do a lot of personal self-development, which I've been doing the last year or two, I feel like everyone I've watched, all the greats, all the legends. I love it. He's a legend. This guy's a legend, right? He's a legend. They say they put themselves in uncomfortable situations. Straight. And even more so now, I'm trying to, every week at some point, try and do something that feels uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, I won't spin the camera right now, but I've got it on my wall up there. I wrote up there, comfortable being uncomfortable. It's one of my mantras, because that's where you find growth. Is we're in uncomfortable situations. Staying in your comfort zone, it's easy to stay in that little bubble. And so you're a very brave man to keep pushing yourself and keep facing your fears and dealing with them head on. Because most people run away from their fears. Yeah. But you're not doing that. You're taking fear by the horns and I'd just like to say as well that I did that for a long time. I didn't face it. Brilliant. And I just got sick and tired of I was like, something's got to change. And I used to blame a lot of other people and things, and now I'm like, well, there's a pattern here. Like, it can't always just be other people. Brilliant. So it's just brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. So what you're saying there is you took self-responsibility. Yeah. Because we all can be put in even sometimes situations that are out of our control. Yeah. Circumstances that are out of our control. And we had no part in being in that circumstance. And when we're there, it's easy to start pointing the finger at everybody and saying it's your fault, it's his fault, it's their fault. But when you take a step back and you self-reflect and you do what you did and you said, I'm not going to blame anybody. I'm going to take control of the situation. I'm going to take responsibility. And all the fears that I have and all the things, the barriers and the hurdles and the mental blockages that get in my way, I'm going to tackle them one by one. That is amazing. I'm really humbled. I commend you for your strength and your bravery. So well done, well done, Billy, man. Well done, man. You're a brave man. And I love the fact that you said, I started dealing with my fear. You know what I mean? So tell us about that, man, because that's so, you're fearless. You know what, as well? I feel like people have this even more extreme than I did, and obviously family is a big thing for a lot of people. Yeah. But sometimes their habits and that, it's not getting the results. Do you know what I mean? I've seen they're not necessarily happy with stuff, and I love them to bits. Yeah. But I want to be the one to, like Eric Thomas.
Yeah.
He was like, I was sick of like the generations going back of everyone's just miserable, and you know what I mean. And like I don't know how I was like gonna go about it, but I just wanted to try and change the thinking behind things and like the mindset, because I don't think they've done it out of like on purpose. Like I don't think any family people like members do. But it's what they've learned from their parents. And it's a generational thing.
Definitely. What you're touching on here is karmic cycles. So generation to generation, we're following the same karmic cycle, and you're saying it's not necessarily through maliciousness. No. It's just education. You know, and I think no matter well, I'm speaking quite openly when I say I suffer from that in my family. You know, and I know a lot of people can relate to that in different ways. That, you know, if your parents have been badly educated, they might badly educate you, and your grandparents might have badly educated them. Not intentionally, but you know, we are victims of, you know, our education. This is why I say if you control the diameter of a man's knowledge, you control the circumference of his thinking. And give you an example, we had Jessica Kelly here a couple of weeks ago, and she mentioned that, you know, her grandparents were alcoholics and her parents were alcoholics, and she became an alcoholic because it was just normal. Everybody was drinking. So that's the karmic cycle that we're referring to, that you could be born into a family or an environment where there's a perpetual behaviour which is just the norm. So you know, that environment might not be as conducive a success as you would have liked it to be, and you're not blaming anybody. You just acknowledge that's what it is, you know. But it's breaking that cycle, you know. So yeah, carry on. That's brilliant.
So yeah, like it's just, I feel like you got to be so like mentally tough. You have to get to a certain point where you get fed up of it, of just like seeing, like as well with the family thing.
Yeah.
The mad thing is, it comes from love and then wanting to protect you.
Yeah.
So they think they're helping.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it ends up like you're repeating what they've done, and then you're just miserable too.
Yeah.
And like I said, I want to like be the change so I can make something of myself in whatever I choose to do, and then give back to them as well.
Yeah.
And then, do you know what I mean? Just make a better life, like, because they've struggled a lot, and I've seen them give to people, and they've not really received anything back.
Yeah.
And I want to make them proud, and like, do you know what I mean? And because as well, I still live at home at the moment, so like, obviously I'd like to have my own place and that, but the situation at the moment, money-wise and that, is tough where I am.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful as well, because I could be homeless. Like if it wasn't for them, like their support as well, I'd be out on the street, and that's just facts.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to like find some. I'm hoping with the workshops and things in the future, we can make that something we get paid from, but not do it to take the money.
Yeah.
The money is the bonus.
Yeah, to help people, but
to give the content. Like with ET does it. Like, and that's why, and then the money will just come anyway.
Brilliant. And for any of our viewers, if you've got any questions that you want to ask Billy, or you've got any you know, particular areas of this particular topic you want Billy to discuss more, email us. Send me an email, ace.gottalk@gmail.com. We'll get Billy back into the studio. We can do questions and answers. We might even do a live webinar. You know what I mean? But yeah, because your story is a very inspiring story, because it's very encouraging. It's one of hope, and I think the fearlessness in you, and the resilience and the determination to constantly keep improving yourself, you know, I think is amazing. It's very admirable.
I just want to say as well, like I still suffer from like major anxiety.
Yeah.
Like even when it comes to like performing like live music and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I just want to say, because certain people might start tackling things and they think, oh, I shouldn't still be feeling like this. But I get it all the time with everything still. Yeah. But I make myself go and do it, even though like sometimes I feel awful like inside.
Feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah. I wanted to ask you earlier about stress. Talk to me about stress.
Right. So I don't know if you noticed, but I'm going bald on top.
Okay.
I'm not even 30 yet. So stress, like, I won't go into too much detail, but going back to what we were saying about the medication earlier, my dad's on about 5 or 6 different tablets at the moment. just got diagnosed with Alzheimer's and thing of that I'm thinking about at the moment because my mum's getting stressed about it. Because it's still early on, we don't know the full details, but he's already kind of deteriorating. Like he doesn't really get a lot of work now.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point now where his memory's going a bit and it's not safe for him to do a lot of work. So that's a recent stress that I've had. I've just had another baby. I've got 3 kids.
Congratulations.
Thanks. So I've got a girl and I've got 2 boys.
Brilliant.
The good thing is, even though I live at home, they don't live with me, but they're like walking distance.
Yes, she's spending a lot of time with the kids.
Yeah. So like it's manageable, and I'm just grateful for that. Like a lot of people feel like if you have a family and that you have to have a house. Like obviously that's the ideal situation for a lot of people.
If you can afford to.
But I realise like if it wasn't for my parents and my missus' parents
and the
supporting, we'd both be out on the streets and the kids wouldn't even be with us. So like I always think like you need to remind yourself of whatever situation you're in, there's going to be struggles, but you got to always remember that there's people out there that are in so much worse positions.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So
so you're a fighter. So the point I'm trying to get is people with similar conditions to yourself, they can have a lot of stress at times, and the anxiety levels can be high, and they can even, have spouts of depression. So how do you cope now with like your stress? How do you deal with your stress?
So exercise, talking.
Yeah.
Like the workshops in particular, like I've only known a lot of them a couple months.
Yeah.
But we've now got a WhatsApp group as well. So we're in between the workshops, there's like support in the group. So for instance, there was a guy that come to the first session, and then we noticed he weren't in the group for a while, like messaging anything. And one of the people that was a bit closer to him was like, "Has anyone heard from him?" And they hadn't. So we was ringing around, chasing around, and eventually got hold of him. But like it's just a good like support thing, because obviously between the workshops everyone's just going on with their life in it, and there's that stress and struggle there daily. So I think just having people that you can talk to is a big thing.
So one of the ways you'd say offloading, basically.
Yeah.
People that you can offload and can relate to you, and
And also like when you offload them to them, like certain people feel like they're just being negative, and I think it's important that people understand that it might not be the most positive subject at times, but it's important that they get it out, because that can lead to other things.
Yeah. You don't want to bottle up inside. You combust. You have to have a controlled environment, a safe environment where you can offload. What I was just trying to get at, is to see if there's any other things you do. But do you ever meditate?
I've tried it a little bit. I've kind of slacked off it a little bit. But I have been with the personal development stuff. I've been doing quite a bit of stuff on mindfulness things.
Mindfulness, because going back to what you were saying at the beginning, when you was talking about thinking about using the bathroom and then thinking about it, the more those thoughts build up in your mind, would you say it's fair to say the more stress that gets built up?
Yeah, and then
and then that's when you start sweating, and the thought process is what is creating the stress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and like as well, when you're thinking about it more, in my case anyway, if I had to go out somewhere, I put it off for ages, because like I was like, because I'm just stressing about it.
It's the process, and this process is all going on right here, right? The thinking about what you've got to do, and if I go out, I've got to use the toilet. So one of the things that I would recommend to anybody that is going through what Billy's going through is just relaxing the mind. It's very important to just relax the mind. And one of the best ways to do that is through practicing various breathing techniques.
That's something that I'm still fighting with a lot, because I notice it now when I do it, that sometimes I take the breath out and I can feel it like it's like shaking in me. Yeah,
if you actually just breathe really deep, right? But I'll show you a few breathing techniques, but breathing, it just relaxes. Remember, you want to bring the heart rate down, because once you start overthinking the process, the heart rate starts going up. The heart rate starts going up, the heart starts pumping fast, blood starts pumping around the body, your adrenaline goes up. All of these things are now your adrenaline goes up, going to contribute to the stress in your body. Right? And then it's a snowball. But if you can just at those moments when you start going through those thought processes, start just calming your breathing, keeping your heart rate down, keeping your blood pressure down, it will help. It's just a coping strategy to help go through the thought process without overthinking your thoughts and then building up those stress levels. So that's my tip. Ace got taught. Learn some easy breathing techniques. Doesn't have to be complicated. Just inhale, exhale, and also meditate. Just clear the mind. And I don't want to plug any particular brands, but I will say there are some very good apps that you can get now, mobile phone apps, very basic apps that just do guided meditation. So if you're a beginner's guide to meditation, go on the App Store and just find a guided meditation app, and you've got so many apps out there will just guide you through ways to just clear the mind and clear the noise, because I think that is very important when dealing with stress and anxiety.
What else?
You tell me, Billy.
So
it's your time, you know.
So with the meditation, like,
yeah,
I wanted to put it out there as well. If you're starting to do it, like, because I still find it now, your mind's not going to just relax.
that's very true. Very true.
Like when I do it, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be thinking about it. I'm meant to be like doing this now. But I've read about it recently that you're not supposed to just stop the thoughts coming in.
Brilliant.
You just got to be aware of them and not like judge them.
Brilliant. Brilliant. This is magic right here, because this is what this is about. It's about tackling these issues in the reality that they sit, not being all airy fairy about them. So I want to bounce off this, but it's a very good point. So I've just advised that meditation and calming the mind is very important for dealing with stress, but you have rightfully said that it's very hard when you've got a lot going upstairs, a lot of noise, a lot of traffic, your head's going 100 miles an hour, and I've been through it, trust me, because my brain overthinks all the time, to just sit there and suddenly block out every thought. Now, I want to help anyone who's suffering from that right now, and I'm going to explain how you go about that. Meditation, and people will argue and say different things, but I'm not interested in that. I'm going to explain from my perspective. Meditation is not about clearing the mind and wiping the mind clean or clear of blank thought. It's about just letting the thoughts flow, relaxing the mind and just letting them come and go. And that's how you start to calm the noise. You're not trying to stop the thoughts. Stop thinking that, oh my God, I need to stop thinking that. I don't want to be thinking about that. Just relax and let the thoughts come and go. And what I usually do when my brain is thinking, overly thinking, I imagine myself sitting on the edge of the motorway, M25, busy motorway junction, and loads of cars going shing, 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 up and down. But each one of those cars are my thoughts. So I start to imagine a motorway with loads of cars, and I'm just sitting on the edge of the motorway, and all those cars, they're my thoughts going shing, 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 shing. And you just relax, and you just watch your thought, one thought go that way, and one thought go that way, another thought go that way, just like they were cars. And before you know it, you've completely removed yourself from being part of the thought process, and you're just sitting back watching the thought process. So give that a try, see if that helps. But can you relate to that analogy?
Yeah, because it sounds like you're speaking about me as well, like with the racing thoughts, because just not just with like the OCD side of it, it's just like with everything.
Yeah.
So like it's hard, like you said, because it's not only like an illness, it becomes a habit as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, like a double whammy again.
Yeah.
So like it's not just a case of I deal with like the mental side of it, because it's a learned pattern as well.
Yeah. Learned behaviour, and you're right, and that's why you just want to not try and control it, not try and stop it, but just let it flow.
Yeah.
And that's why the analogy I gave you is just model thinking. It's just a model that you can apply whenever your thoughts start going like shing, 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 thoughts flying all over the place. You say, okay, this is what I do. I just sit in a quiet place, relax. Sometimes I close my eyes, sometimes I keep them open, and I just let the thoughts come and go. Just let them. And before you know it, you're just watching the picture. I suppose they go ching, 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 ching. The thought goes that way, follow it. You can follow that thought, and then it disappears. And then another, and you just let them go. You're not stopping them, you're not controlling, you're just letting them be. And before you know it, your thoughts just flow. So, and then obviously the breathing definitely helps as well with that, you know.
I wanna, like, obviously I went to the ET conference.
Yeah.
And it's the first time that I ever come across you and saw you.
Mm-hmm.
And along with that and ET himself, like, I've been following ET for, I'd say, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Watched like his videos, and I found his video, like, I'm starting to believe in like law of attraction a bit lately.
Yeah.
Just with things like the workshops and that, because I got messaged by the guy that runs it just out of the blue. And because I could relate to it so much, I was like, yeah, I'll be there. And obviously I've become quite close with him now. But yeah, going back to like the conference and that, and the videos, I feel like music was one of my passions, and now I feel like I feel like I could help people via speaking, like public speaking, motivational speaking. So it's definitely something that's new to me, but something that I feel that I could help people with. So that is that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah. So Billy reached out to me after the ET event, and he mentioned this in the phone call. He said to me, "Hey, look, I want to share my story. You know, I've got OCD. I've battled with it. I've overcome it. I'm a warrior, and I want to tell my story to other people that are going through the same or similar things as me. That, you know, this is what I've gone through, and, you know, these are the ways that I've, you know, battled it and the coping strategies I've used, and this is how far I've come. I want to inspire." But he also said to me, "Hey, I want to be a public speaker, and I want to share my story with the world." So I said to him, "Billy, my platform's open, you know, for all speakers that have got a story to tell, you know." So we linked up, and here we are. You know, hopefully this is the first of many short documentaries we record. This particular segment is mental health / OCD. You know, this gentleman has been an amazing guest. You know, I think his story is inspiring, and I hope, you know, with all things, we make the intention from the heart that we want to inspire and motivate people to be more than the sum of their current circumstances. And I think that's very important. It's one of my mantras. Ace got taught through the maths. You are more than the sum of your current circumstances. And as you've seen firsthand from your own eyes, Billy has proven that today. You know, so Ace got talk, and Billy, thoughts and comments below. You know, email, you know, or contact us on the socials if you want more information. Billy, give the viewers all your socials where they can get.
So I'm on Facebook under Billy Cox. I've also got an artist page on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So my artist name is BC. So that's BEECEE. You can find me on Instagram at BC Artist. I think that's about it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming in today. God bless you, my brother.
Thanks
I wish you all the best for the future. If you need anything, you know, I'm at the end of the phone. Just pick up the phone, give me a shout, man, and I'm there. Yeah, G. Bless up. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thanks for coming to the Ace Got Talk Studio. Peace out.